A very good welcome, everybody, to another special episode of Friday Drinks. Here we are out in the sun. I think we're going to enjoy the sun for the next 2 weeks or so. I think the weather reports have come out and they're looking really good. And I think that this is the time of the year that I really love Zim because it's so green and the sun is out and it's not dreary and raining. And it's great to be outside. And this is actually what we do. We sit outside and we have drinks. And today we've got a special guest, somebody who knows what they're talking about, who's actually acquired a doctorate and all sorts of things. And they've gone out to train lots of people and doing lots of things around AI. So it's going to be an exciting one. And they were a guest, like most of our guests. They came bearing gifts. And in this particular instance, they actually brought some coffee. Would you like to tell us what you brought, Doc?
Yeah, I brought you some Ethiopian coffee. I just arrived, just landed just shortly, about an hour ago. So they don't do whiskey in Ethiopia. So I brought you some.
I feel so special, man.
I brought you some Ethiopian. Some Ethiopian.
No. That's fantastic. Yeah. Ethiopian coffee is actually.
You're most welcome. Right. So last time. I was here when I was at the airport. There was this Massawa whiskey, and I bought lots of that, and I took it with me to Ethiopia as gifts, for my friends. Mm-hmm. Oh wow, it was an amazing hit.
All right.
So I always try and take a product of
that's peculiar to a particular country.
Okay. And give it as a gift. So obviously for Ethiopia, the most famous is coffee. And of course they're beautiful women, and that's
So we need to make a trip. we need to go to Addis. I've heard so much about the women, and we need to make a trip. Shumba, what are you drinking?
Yeah, well, it's the last.
You seem not too keen on going to Addis for the women.
I'm not going to comment. I'm going to stay far away from trouble.
Okay, all right. What are you actually drinking?
Well, I'm having Heineken Zero. It's the last week of January, the last week of dry January for me. So next week we'll be doing some more interesting things. I think we've landed our friend, your namesake, as a sponsor. Hence, the table is littered with his wine. I think I'll probably be having some of that next week, and we'll have a lot more to say about it then. But for now, I'm teetotaling like the rest of you with Heineken Zero.
Not just that, you've taken out the idea of wearing very colorful socks. You've got are those Matwasa?
No, they're actually called Ndebele.
Oh, Ndebele.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Okay.
There's a retailer that does these very colorful socks. They make Zim branded socks that are very popular amongst runners.
What, in Zimbabwe?
I don't know whether they're made here, but they certainly sold here. Yeah, I came across them, and
where, in South Africa or
Here.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So and I just thought they looked pretty cool, and
they do.
Inspired by Mr. Colorful Socks himself.
You also have a pair.
Well, not this particular pair, but
he owns very bright colored socks.
Yeah.
Why very colorful socks?
Well, it's the only indulgence that we actually have, if you think about it. Men's clothing is supposed to be boring and very staid, and the only colorful thing that we can have is just around our ankles. So why not have that a bit of bright spark, So yeah, well done. So Doc, I've known you for a while.
Sure.
So what happened is I put this tweet or post on X, and I sort of said, you know what, is there anybody out there who actually knows what they're talking about around AI? Because there's so much that has happened this last week. And I thought, let's have a community contribution where people actually tell us who should come out. And your name came out, quite a bit. And I was like, but I know Panashe. And this is going to
You
be
couldn't
fun.
link the two, right?
No. As far as I knew you, it was banking systems. Because you
Yeah.
built some really robust banking systems in Zim and everywhere
Yeah,
around the
absolutely.
world.
Yeah. That journey. I went to 90 countries around the world implementing banking systems. 90 countries. Yeah,
Imagine that.
phenomenal. Yeah, so I traveled a lot. Went through so many passports. So yeah, I quit that life. I don't really do banking systems anymore.
Okay. Any fascinating character? Any fascinating country within those 90? And which particular banking system were you implementing?
So I left Zim in 97. So there was a company called Interlink that rebranded to CR2.
Okay.
So it was mainly guys from a company which was called NCR, which did cash machines.
Yeah, I still remember that.
ATMs.
Yeah. So they were looking for developers to do code for them.
Okay.
I was given an interview. Writing. I was given a code test in C. 300 questions. I dunked the exam, and within a week, I was given a ticket and everything, and then I moved to the UK. I didn't know anyone at all, and that's how I moved to England.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So
and then you started going to 90 different countries.
Yeah. So initially, I was training. We did training for 3 months. I was staying in central London, around the Barbican area, and from that training, my first assignment was to do Harrods Bank. So that's the time of Dodi Al-Fayyad and everything else. So the report that came out of that implementation that I did said, we want you to be here, we want you to stay. And that continued bank after bank, and before you know it, I'd done quite a number of banks. So back then, I came to Zim, did quite a number of banks. So Kingdom Bank, Time Bank, Beverly Building Society, Standard, Stanbic Bank, and so on. So majority of the banks here, except camps, back then the implementation was actually done by myself. So I got a lot of knowledge on the banking system side, and then I got bored of that, and I then decided.
That's how I actually know you. I know you from banking system perspective.
From that background. So we know when you know something like at the back of your head, you kind of get bored with it. So I decided to leave that and get into. So that's when the buzz of algorithmic trading, capital markets, and everything else. So then I decided to pursue that and go into the capital market space and do algorithmic trading, high frequency trading. Yeah.
Did you make money out of that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. You've got another trader, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of the trading in the real world is done by algorithms. They trade, multiple times per second.
Yeah.
It's just here where, the settlement cycle is 2-3 days. You can't actually buy and sell the same stock on the same day.
Yeah.
On any of the bourses in
because
Zimbabwe.
of the systems or regulation?
I think it's a bit of both. I think the regulation allows trading within 24 hours, but the systems that we've implemented here don't allow it. So we're a bit behind there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then you pivoted from trading. You went into
quantitative finance or financial engineering. Because I went to Kutama High. I did obviously it was the only school that time that offered, and St. George's, that offered computer science. So obviously I couldn't afford to go to St. George's. My father was a civil servant. So I went to Kutama. So
you're a Koba.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Hardcore Koba, hardcore Koba. So I went to Kutama, did computer science, physics, chemistry, and maths. And then, so when I then went to UZ, I decided, I already know computer science, so let me start off by doing maths and statistics instead. It was the best decision I ever made. Then from that's when I then finished, then started computer science, right? Because I knew, and I was in love with coding already from that time, and because Kutama was only one of the few schools that actually did coding at that time. So that's how my background in coding started.
Okay, all right. So that then became very important when you pivoted into data science.
Yeah, that became so data science was just a natural fit because I already had a mathematics, statistics, and computer science background.
Okay.
So even all the maths that was required in quants and all the programming that was required, I could do it, very comfortably. It was not
So
difficult
there was
at all.
there was a time when big data was a thing. I think maybe a decade ago.
Yeah,
Everybody was talking about big data.
everyone was talking about big data, about how.
So what happened?
Yeah, I think the challenge with big data, it was a big buzzword and it was difficult to implement, and also it was very difficult to realize tangible results that would transform a business then, because the technology wasn't very mature, even though the technology was very helpful in terms of creating a centralized repository where you have all your data all coming into one repository through these technologies, right? So even in Zim, it didn't really take off. In Africa, it didn't really take off, but it was quite big in the US because companies had a lot of data, and they were trying to make sense of that data. And the only way to be able to make sense of that data is to have it in a single repository instead of having it in multiple silos. You have to aggregate the data and then be able to match the patterns within the data and be able to make decisions from the data. So Hadoop wasn't. Yeah, it was the first step towards big data, and then other tools then came after it.
Okay. So for novices like us, or as an analyst, just as an economic analyst, when I think about historically when people were talking about big data, and then that turned out to be a dud, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe you can convince us otherwise. And then now people are talking about AI. How do we know that AI is not just going to be a dud again?
Okay.
Where we're sold on this ideas about
the
world is going to change. And
snake oil. Snake oil.
Tinashe is not sold on AI. I've got a different view. I'm sold on AI. I think it's a big deal. I think it's just a matter of timing. But maybe you can articulate to our audience.
So let's use the Bible calendar for reference, just for illustration purposes. So from the creation of man, I start off with Adam, right? So Genesis 6 days the flood, and the first man that was destroyed was because of corruption of genealogy, and then Noah and his family are the ones that survived after that. So that is the first interference of mankind to be destroyed, and then there's a little incident of Nimrod where he was trying to build the Tower of Babel to go to the sky, and then that's how all the languages apparently started. That was interfered. So if you look at the whole calendar of man since existence, with all the invasions and wars from the Iron Age to the first industrial revolution, all the way to the fourth industrial revolution, there hasn't been a technology where man is at threat of being replaced by his own creation, right? It's never been, right? So all the tools that man created have always been tools that men utilized.
Subservient to the man.
Yeah, that served man. But this particular tool is actually far more intelligent than man can ever be. So it's not just a buzz because the transformation and the capability that AI is beyond even our wildest imaginations. AI can do so many things. It's just unbelievable what AI can do.
So if I'm getting you correctly, you're saying that in the time history of man, there's never been a technology that has superseded human intelligence.
Never. Never. The only other threat of any technology is nuclear power, and that is it's not intelligence, it's just to
It's still in
It's
our
just
control.
destructive power.
destructive power, right? So in terms of intelligence, there's never been
How about supercomputers? Because I think the idea of
supercomputers are accelerators, right? To crunch data so that AI can understand that data. So they're just an enabler or facilitator.
humans are still in control.
Yeah, humans are still in control. So supercomputing is used a lot in research.
Okay.
To be able to advance research much faster, because you've got a lot of data and you're trying to find patterns within the data, and the only way to do it is using much faster computational capability. So this is why you need a supercomputer. So imagine you're doing you want to predict the weather, for example. The amount of variables that you need to be able to measure the wind speed and all of the moisture, the temperature, and so on, to be able to accurately predict the weather to a specific resolution. That requires immense computational capability. So this is where supercomputers come in. So, for example, you've got your weather department here. The Met Department actually uses the supercomputer to do all their calculations for weather and for reporting.
Okay.
Because you definitely need it. So you find that their weather reports are more accurate now, and they've got a better resolution than they had before because they're using
Okay. All right. So maybe to actually get in the weeds, could you paint an AI nirvana? So utopia, what utopian world under AI looks like, and then also dystopia, what dystopia would look like under AI, because that might help us to grapple with AI.
Okay. So you want the ideal case, what AI would
utopia. If
everything
everything worked out well and everything was happening as AI, people were extremely optimistic about AI. What's that world looking like? And you can be you can be biblical about what that looks like. So what does heaven look like under AI, and what does hell look like under AI?
So in terms of AI, in terms of progression of intelligence, where AI is at the moment is what we call weak AI. It is not weak, but it is enabled to do a particular task, and it can do that task very well. So the next level of AI is what we call artificial general intelligence. Now the AI can do any task that you give it. Whatever task you give it, it can do it. Right? So it's called AGI, artificial general intelligence. And the next level after that is called artificial super intelligence, where AI is so intelligent that at that point man becomes irrelevant. So it's called the point of singularity, similar to a black hole. When you reach the event horizon in a black hole, you get sucked in, even light can't escape. So it's called a singularity. So in terms of the utopia, the idea where things are all gravitating to, I know it might sound scary. You see some of the technology that Elon Musk is working on, like the Neuralink. The idea is the communication that we do. You hear me, you have to hear me verbally, and that communication has to go through your eardrums and then through processes by the part of the brain that processes speech. Right? But if we both have this device, right, we can communicate telepathically, right, without voice, right? We can communicate. I can feel what you can feel, right?
So the blind can see, the deaf can speak.
Absolutely. So it's in a world where we are all plugged into an AI, because we can't compete against AI. So we're then plugged into an AI, and we then, similar to what are called Internet of Things, we become what is called Internet of People. Everyone is plugged in, right? So you can share your emotions with him, and you'll be able to understand exactly how you feel, right?
Not so sure that I would want that, but
yeah. So at that point, all diseases are curable, right?
can we live longer?
Of course, aging it will be a thing of the past, because aging is just this deterioration at the cell level.
Yeah, and humor me. Does it mean we can live 1,000 years, or it's just really
you'll be able to live for very
forever?
long, for maybe not forever, because if you still have a car accident, you still die. But all of that element,
self-driving cars, and
absolutely.
Or you'll still be able to drink alcohol. Maybe that might kill you.
We'll just make a new liver for you in the lab. So that's the ideal utopian. But the thing about it is, the question is now about consciousness, right? Can AI be conscious, right? When you talk about consciousness, because in human terminology, what we call consciousness is the inhaling and exhaling of breathing. Now we inhale oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide, and our consciousness is defined by our emotional intelligence and our ability to communicate. That's how we know someone is conscious. But on a mechanical level, if you've got sensors, right, and if you've got perception through those sensors, right, AI is able to see, is able to feel, and is able to interact with you just like a human being. So obviously, can
it make judgment calls? Because I think that consciousness, to me, it's a moral code and a judgment call. Would AI be able to do that?
Absolutely. So anything that human can do, AI can emulate. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So that's utopian. Utopian is heaven on earth, from what I'm hearing, and we don't need to work because the machines are working for us.
Yeah, the machines are working for us, but then the challenge is, if you wake up every day and you do nothing, then what's the point?
Leisure. We spend more time.
You pursue your own interests. Yeah,
your things that we actually like. It means that income levels. I remember first we want to start with utopian world. What utopia? There is no, and I assume that poverty will disappear.
Yeah.
In a utopian world, because
absolutely
this technology becomes very accessible even to poor countries, and so there's no wealthy or poor, or maybe the wealthy would have better AI. Is there such a thing?
Of course, because if you look at the current AI race, it's America
the superpowers
who are leading. And it's a question of the amount of money they've invested in research and the hardware to accelerate.
We'll get into that, especially with the Chinese. Can we talk about dystopia? What does dystopia look like?
The worst case scenario.
The worst case scenario.
Yeah. So the worst case scenario is AI, because it's not a hard thing to figure out. The biggest challenge with climate change and everything that's happening to the earth, with all the wars, the biggest factor is mankind. So out of all of these issues that we have in the world, if you eliminate mankind, all the problems disappear. And it's not even difficult for an AI to figure that.
So basically, your dystopia is an end.
Of humanity.
It's not like a scenario like the one we see in movies like Terminator, where the humans are fighting the machines.
Yeah, it's a total annihilation of mankind, because mankind is a problem to everything that we have, right?
And on balance of probability between the utopia that you've just spoken to and this dystopia that you've described, what's the balance? What's the likelihood that we end up in dystopia, and what's the likelihood that we end up in this utopia?
You see, the challenge is we AI is a race, and we don't know what the finish line looks like. At least with 100 meters, you know that there's the finish line. We know exactly what it looks like. We are rushing to build all this capability without understanding some of the capability that this AI has. We then discover later that, we need to make it more ethical. We need to make it more understanding and remove all of these other elements within the AI. Yeah. So that's the challenge. Everyone is busy racing to create the best AI, but actually we don't know what the finish line looks like, right? So at least with every other race.
Well, Elon is looking at consciousness, because you brought in the idea of consciousness, and he thinks that if the idea of increasing consciousness, it means that if we're multi-planetary, then we've increased consciousness. Because if there's one big event that can destroy Earth, and then that's it. But if we're able to live,
if we go on to Mars
and then we increase the likelihood of longevity of our consciousness.
Yeah, but in the amount of effort that is required to do that, and if you put that same effort to make Earth better, and we all have a better Earth, I think it's actually a much better, spent of money, because everywhere else is very hostile to mankind.
One could say exactly the same about Earth, that Earth at some point was extremely hostile to life.
But how long does it take to terraform Mars into something that is habitable by mankind?
That's where AI comes in, right?
Yeah.
AI could probably speed things up a little bit.
Yeah. Instead of 10,000 years, it could happen in
much quicker.
Much quicker.
But, so I know that's the vision that Elon Musk has. But I'm more of the opinion that we should make Earth better,
more habitable. Okay,
more habitable. Yeah.
The other issue you've already hinted on it, and I think it's a good time for us to just speak to it, which is the race to the finish line. And we've seen the two superpowers. We've seen what America is doing. We've seen competition within. I mean, Sam Altman and Elon and everyone else. There's a lot of competition there. We've seen what China is doing, right? And we saw the first release, DeepSeek, but I hear there are 2 or 3 other versions that have just been released, and they're doing, better, or at least in terms of financing or the cost of running the AI, or running the computers and everything. It's become substantially cheaper, and they seem to have a competitive edge. Could you just give us color of what the competition is looking like? I know from an African perspective, we're just watching.
Yeah, exactly. So
just give us color. What's actually happening there?
So if you so DeepSeek. So in terms of competition, so you've heard of DeepSeek. So DeepSeek initially released their model version 1, which was not at par with any of the American models. So you could not compare it to Gemini, OpenAI, Anthropic, and so on. And then the latest version, which is called DeepSeek R1, which is a reasoning model. So the way they trained it is using what is called knowledge distillation. So with knowledge distillation, so remember we grew up watching kung fu movies, and we liked kung fu movies. So in kung fu movies, you've got a master, right? And the student comes to the master and says, "Master, teach me kung fu." And then the student comes and he's first told, go and fetch a bucket of water. And what is that got to do with kung fu? So what DeepSeek did is they took OpenAI model, right? And that's the master. And then they used it to train their own AI, you see. their own AI. So using that process called knowledge distillation. So with knowledge distillation, you're taking a parent model and training what we call a teacher model. And then the parent model is transferring data to the teacher model. Right? And then through that process, they are also using what is called reinforcement learning. Through a reward mechanism, they are re-engineering so that the mistakes that are in this model are not replicated in this model. So in the end, when the training is done, this model becomes better than this one or even a par.
Okay.
So that's how they might.
So they're piggybacking on.
Yes. So
this idea that we've been told that they've just spent 5 million is actually not exactly true because they're piggybacking on technology that's already there.
So think of it this way. So imagine there's also a concept in AI called transfer learning. So imagine you're a music writer and you need to make a great song. So you go and get a successful song in the past with a nice beat, and all you do is just change the lyrics and use that beat. So when people hear that beat with new lyrics,
call it sampling.
Yeah, sampling there's a chance that it's going to be more successful than the original song, right? But with different lyrics.
Yep.
Yeah. So what you've done is you've piggybacked on the successful song to generate a new song, right? So the chances of you making it successful by creating something from scratch is quite more difficult than actually piggybacking upon something that was proved to be successful before.
So some commentators have described this as like a Sputnik moment, like a game changer, that this is the Chinese have taken a great leap forward. So are you saying that that's probably an exaggeration of what they've achieved?
But they use OpenAI to train their model, right? So the student is slightly better than the master now, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
are they going to stay ahead?
So, but the difference now is their model is completely open source.
Okay.
Right. So I'll give you an example. For ChatGPT, they charged about $60 for 1 million tokens, right? So like 1 million, let's just say 1 million words output. DeepSeek charges $2 for 1 million word output.
Okay.
Right. So it completely destroyed the OpenAI business model, right? Completely. So all the US companies who had this business model to monetize AI was completely blown away, right? So now they have to think of, okay, how do we now monetize?
Was it completely blown away, or it was just really hyperbole around AI? And I think that's, to me, it's not that I'm not a believer. I'm actually a believer of it.
Yeah.
But I think that at some point there was just too much hyperbole, where this was an advanced Google search, and people thought this thing, NVIDIA and a number of these AI companies were just going to make, loads of money. And I don't think that they were correctly priced. And I think that what DeepSeek has done and showed us, and
it brought them to reality.
That we're not saying that this is not phenomenal. This is great. This is technology that's going to change the future. But probably the pricing was just pure hyperbole and not really edged in reality.
Yeah, I suppose so. But what it has done on the positive side, it has brought down the prices of all these AI services. They had to come down. NVIDIA, the evaluation lost 680 billion, and within 2 days, they lost, or what we call the Great Seven. They lost 1.2 trillion dollars. Yeah,
the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, they lost 1.2 trillion. That's a lot of money, right? So they are now trying to figure out what is the best way to bounce back from this innovation that the Chinese have done. Alibaba has done the same. They've just released Qwen 2.5 using the similar technique. Yeah. So what the Chinese have done is they've become very crafty at engineering, where you like, oh, you don't need that much infrastructure. With a little infrastructure, you can actually piggyback upon what the Americans have done to create something
Does
better.
this then open up the possibility of people like in Africa or smaller organizations? Because, you know, NVIDIA has been around for over 30 years or so. These were the big companies, Meta, Google, you know, these were big companies that, you know,
They still are very big.
They're still very big companies.
who knows? With AI, you know, who knows? But the point I'm trying to make is AI seemed to be just under the big companies, that only the big companies can afford.
Absolutely.
The technologies that's actually needed. And what the Chinese have done is perhaps democratize the space.
Yeah, they burst the bubble. So the concentration of talent, you know, NVIDIA, Meta, Anthropic,
OpenAI,
and all these big AI companies and Google included. The amount of talent they have is just unbelievable, right? So if you look at the talent in terms of the number of, for example, the number of PhDs between all of them, they probably have about 3,000.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So
human capital is
so the human capital is phenomenal, right? The human capital is phenomenal. Then the infrastructure to be able to create new AIs and advanced AI is also what they have, which everyone didn't have. So what the US government did, they had to put an embargo on Chinese to say, no, we are restricting you. You cannot have this type of GPUs. You can have the slower ones, but the really fast ones, you can't have them. So the Chinese said, okay, we'll use the slow ones, but we'll make our engineering much better. Yeah. So what this has done, so they've made the models open. So from an African perspective,
we just piggyback on that.
You can take the model, all right, and we can train it on our own data. So there's what is called sovereign AI, where we need an AI to be specific to our own use case. For example, Zimbabwe, we'll take all the Zimbabwean data and train the AI on the Zimbabwean data, and then it will then be able to respond to very specific questions about Zimbabwe, because we've trained it on Zimbabwean data. So we can now take a model like DeepSeek and retrain it for our own specific use case. So it's now very possible and a very high performing AI, of which before it was more difficult.
Okay. So will local AI emerge and become prominent and take market share in a Zimbabwean context or an African context? So just to put it into perspective, if you think about search, for example, there is no Zimbabwean search. Everybody uses Google, right? If you think about instant messaging, right, there is no Zimbabwean instant messaging platform. Everybody's on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or the global big, messaging platforms. So is this going to be different with AI? Is there scope for us to have a homegrown Zimbabwean or African AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're working on is trying to create a Shona GPT or a Zim GPT that can do English, Shona, and Ndebele. So we've partnered with Zim Papers. So Zim Papers has got the largest corpus of texts that
of Shona and Ndebele text,
and even
because
English,
of their publications.
Yeah, that goes far back as 1890. Right? So if you look at OpenAI, they're also in partnership with with New York Times and so on and so on. They use that data as part of their data sets to train the AI. So we can now do exactly the same. So instead of creating a model from scratch, a foundational model, what we call a foundational model, which requires quite intensive computational power, we can take a DeepSeek, for example, train it on our specific data and create a Zim GPT. So now it's very, very possible. We just have to invest a little bit of money in the infrastructure, and then we can, there you go. So what that will do is it will transform the Zimbabwean educational system completely. Because imagine if you take a physics book written in English, you can give it to our Zim GPT, and it will convert it to Shona on Ndebele. So now you can now do quantum physics, particle mechanics.
In vernacular.
In vernacular language, completely. And we've demonstrated that capability already. So then the idea is for you to be able to write a physics exam in Shona and not exactly in English. Because if you look at the current performance of all the different schools, the rural schools tend to
do significantly worse than the urban schools.
Than the urban schools.
And yet their language capability is actually very high.
Yeah, the issue is the language capability.
Communication.
Now imagine you're teaching someone in Gwanda, you're teaching them maths in Ndebele, right, and not in Shona, and then they understand that concept extremely well, right? Look at Einstein. Imagine giving Einstein an IQ test in Ndebele. How will he fare?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and it's a nice segue for us to actually talk about AI and its progression in Africa. And you're based in Addis, so you've had a shot at this. You advise a number of presidents in a number of countries. You've got projects in Botswana, Ethiopia. Can you just tell us where AI is as far as Africa is concerned, and some of the projects that you're actually working on?
Yeah. So Zim is actually not failing badly at all. So if
that's not a very high bar.
Well, to be honest, so what happened in 2014? Zimbabwe was the first country to have a supercomputer in Africa, which was dedicated for research, including AI, number one. And that supercomputer was listed in the top 500 in the world. Right? At one stage, it was in the top 100. Right? And so when then it was launched, so the program started in 2014, and then it was launched in February 2015. And then I came to help and assist with that program in 2016 to develop capacity around people using the supercomputer. At that stage, Zim was doing extremely well. But obviously, when you train people leave, and it's very difficult to retain talent. And talent will always go where there's more capital, where's rewarded the best. So then I made a commitment to then.
You also left.
No,
he wasn't here. He wasn't based here.
So I made a commitment to teach AI. So I met Professor Makanyenza, who was at Chino University. So he said, why don't you come help us? I'm going to start a data science program, and I want you to teach AI and machine learning. And I said, okay, as long as you give me full control of the program, I'll come and participate. So we then started that program in 2017, and obviously with other people involved, it became the most successful program I would say even in the whole of Africa. Even up to now, it's the most successful program for data science and machine learning. The most successful. It's oversubscribed. There's only a program. It's a master's program, and it's oversubscribed. So the idea was to develop very capable talent that would go and transform a business to be able to use data science and machine learning.
Okay.
But I think the challenge is the company's ability to adopt the technology, and not the talent, because there is a lot of talent out there that is awaiting for companies to start adopting the technology. Yeah, we've got
Are you saying that Zimbabwean companies are later adopters of the technology? So
they're laggards.
they're laggards.
Yeah.
Okay, so the problem is actually industry.
Yeah, the problem is an industry problem, and not a talent problem. The problem is the captains of industry are not transforming themselves to realize the transformative power of AI and data science, how it can help their business and transform their business. Yeah, this is where the challenge is.
Could you give us an example of how it could help us?
Yeah, so imagine you you're trying to find the best use case in marketing, right? What is the most effective way to engage my customers, right? And you've got all this data that you have, and based on that data, you're trying to find, okay, what is the most effective way that I can engage with my customers, right? So what you can do with AI is you can actually take different campaigns and program. So I can target one particular program to you, and I can target a different program to him, and all of these different demographics, and then I examine the response in real time. And then I see what's working and deprecate what's not working and just use one in real time, right? And you can't do that without AI. Right.
Okay.
So that's the transformative power that we're talking about.
Okay. So that's industry. And in governments, could we do the same, especially in monetary policy?
Of course. So look, if you look at it this way, imagine the challenge we have with the Zig. Right. Look at the Zig. The challenge that we have with the Zig. Right now, with the Zig that's out there, and the allocation of the reserves that are required in the different asset classes, whether it's gold and the multiple currencies. We don't know the exact ratios that they're using. But imagine in real time, you could use AI based on the money that is circulating in real time. It could create the right proportions of the asset allocations of the different reserves that are required,
and you won't need human intervention.
Yeah, you won't need human intervention. It's auditable, and there's no guesswork. Right now, you don't know what is the quantity that is required with the amount of Zig that is in circulation. What is that, right? But AI can completely automate and then drive that to the point where it's transparent, right? We know the amount of gold that is being produced. Right. Then we know the amount of gold that we need backing, and we know the amount of Zig that we can float in the market. Right? And all of that can actually be AI driven, and then it will bring transparency to.
And it becomes a fully integrated, because you also know what treasury, the TBs, and what they're doing, and who's owing what. So a full-on ledger. Okay, so I'll get into ledger economics later on, but could you just speak to what is happening across Africa? Because I know you're involved in a number of projects. Could you just give us color we know how far we are.
You want me to start with Zim? Let's start off with Zim.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, let's start. So the Minister of Health is actually doing a fantastic job. They started a company called Zimtech. And Zimtech is implementing electronic health records, and based on that, they created what is called Impilo Health, which is a government app that will run all the different aspects of health delivery for government. So based on that app, they've got a number of AI specialists and data science specialists who are part of the program that we created it, to be able to do telemedicine, telehealth, and all of that. You can do disease burden prediction. You can do diagnosis of diseases remotely, right, through a telephone, through a mobile app. You can Google it. It's called Impilo Health app. So the Ministry of Health is trying very hard, and that is being run by Dr. Zijo and Dr. Kongora. So Zim is really doing well in in terms of that of that program. As far as I know, that's the only, in terms of government-wide, that's where AI is really being implemented. Ministry of Health, yes, because you need, if you look at the doctor to patient ratio, trying to manage it better using a technology and AI. So they're doing that, and it, of course, is still being rolled out and everything else. But they're doing an amazing job. So in terms of the whole of Africa, maybe Zim is there, I will say, at the top in terms of that particular aspect of AI. I don't know where else AI is being implemented in the government, but for Ministry of Health, yeah, that's one aspect that I know that is being done effectively, and a lot of the infrastructure, even at the High Performance Computing Center, a lot of the infrastructure has been dedicated to that program. Yeah, so they are doing an amazing job. So I'll put maybe Zim in the top 3 in Africa in terms of that particular aspect.
Project, okay.
Yeah, but everything else I haven't
That's
seen.
fantastic,
Yeah. So everything else.
Okay.
But just to
and then also across Africa, we just wanna have an idea.
Yeah. So in Ethiopia, they also have a very. They actually have a Ministry of AI.
Okay.
So that we shows
But different from ICT?
Yeah, they have a Minister of ICT, and then they have a Minister of AI. So the Minister of AI is responsible for deploying AI in all government departments.
Okay.
Yeah, so the vision is very different. So they're very extremely AI focused. They want to see AI in health, the banking sector, in every sector. So you actually have a dedicated ministry for AI, right? Yeah, so in the world, maybe there are about 3 countries which have a Minister of AI. So there's a UAE, they've got a Minister of AI, and then there's Ethiopia, and then there's some other country. I think it's Saudi Arabia. So probably there's only 3 countries that actually have a dedicated ministry with focus on implementing AI. So I'll probably put Ethiopia at number 1. And South Africa is also trying. They've got multiple data centers with infrastructure for AI that is being implemented in various sectors. So then I'll put South Africa also in the top in the top 5. Yeah.
So Panashe, there's something I need you to understand, because it was
Yes.
a big debate, I would say maybe 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And maybe the debate has already been won, I don't know. But this idea of so AI as a centralized system contrasted to cryptocurrency, which is, the technology around cryptocurrency, which is decentralized. So centralization versus decentralized systems. Who has won the battle? So when you look at blockchain, so blockchain as a decentralized system, and then AI as a centralized system.
In terms of so if you look at a blockchain, the whole idea with blockchain is about transparency, right? To bring transparency to transactional system. With AI, it's about bringing intelligence to systems. So it's not really a competition, but it's more of, you can actually run AI on top of blockchain to accelerate the intelligence that happens within blockchain. So there's actually now a synergy. First, it was seen to be like a war, but now there is actually a synergy where you can
Of the two.
of the two, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So in the beginning,
disaggregated ledgers,
yeah,
but then the intelligence that sits on top of that
absolutely,
then ensures that there's a bit of equity and
yeah,
efficiency.
absolutely. Because with blockchain, every record, even if you can't delete a record, is going to be permanently there, right? So what then AI can do now is all the intelligence that you need then to be able to mine the information within the blockchain and manipulate it outside the ledger, and then bring it back into the ledger. The AI can do that, right?
Okay.
So I don't see it as competition to blockchain, but it's actually the synergy that can be complementary. Yeah.
Maybe let's make it real. Let's give an example in Zimbabwe where we can have disaggregated ledgers. Maybe title deeds could be something that is disaggregated, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of it being held in a government office, it becomes something that everybody can.
Yeah. So imagine with what Zimra are trying to do with the house tax, they want to tax people certain houses and so on. So what the AI can do is it can actually navigate all the ledgers based on the house sizes, correlate that to the actual, using satellite technology, actually the actual size of the house, and then give you to say this house is this particular size, it's got so many swimming pools, it's got this and this and that, and then this is the tax that has to be paid.
So we don't like giving Zimra ideas.
So the AI can then do that because the blockchain technology is about creating a transparent record. Then the AI does all these other amazing things, all integrated together. That's actually more complementary than competition.
Okay. Yeah. Another example that I'm thinking of, and you can just help us here, is just the learned surveying of all the plots of land. I can't say it's in private hands, but all these farms, A1, A2, and they haven't been pegged and surveyed, and we don't know really what the boundaries look like.
Yeah.
How could blockchain and artificial intelligence help?
So if you look at land, what you can do with blockchain is you can mark the actual specific GPS coordinates of the land.
And you could do that with geocoding. You don't need to be
physically there, right? You can do that. And then with the AI, using satellite remote sensing. So so if you, for example, if you take a satellite shot of an image today, then if you take a satellite image of the same area next week, there'll be a difference. So if let's say, for example, you're trying to grow maize. This week you're plowing, the next week you would have planted. There's a difference. So AI can actually look at land usage using that technique by comparing before and after images, maybe on a weekly or monthly basis, and then you can actually determine who are the productive farmers and who aren't the productive farmers, and based on that criteria, maybe you can reallocate land, you can predict yield and so on. That's actually an amazing use case, right? Yeah.
Where else in Africa is this happening, or around the world?
So what I should have brought my laptop. I'll show you. So what the project that we're doing in agriculture, we're using exactly the same techniques. So with precision agriculture, it's not just about the technology, but it's about improving the quality of the yield and the quantum of the yield, right? So in terms of any application, from pre-planting to harvesting, within the growth cycle of that particular crop and the growth stages, I want to monitor how the crop is performing. So because I'm using fields which are very large, to try and actually install ground sensors is very difficult, because ground sensors only cover a very small portion of area, and you need to install thousands of ground sensors. So using satellite remote sensing, I can actually monitor the soil moisture. I can monitor the amount
and you can do this remotely.
Remotely. So we use what is called an infrared sensor. So an infrared sensor, what it does is, on a leaf that is green, if you an infrared sensor has got red, blue, and green spectrum of light. So if you shine a red, blue spectrum of light on a leaf that is green, it absorbs the red and blue spectrum of light and reflects the green. And if a plant is not performing well, it will absorb the green spectrum of light and reflect the red and blue. So based on that technology, you're actually able to determine which plants are performing and which plants aren't performing. And based on that, you're able to demarcate the areas where the plants aren't performing, and then you deploy a drone to only apply treatment to those particular areas. So it's a technology that's called variable rate application. So you vary the application according to the areas that are performing and the areas that are not performing, right? And so that because you want to try and even the yield. Because the challenge when you take a product to market, if it is 90% grade A and 10% grade B, it's grade B.
True.
Yeah. So it's better to have a uniform yield and quality than one which is quite varied.
How accessible would this be to a small scale peasant farmer? Because from what you're saying, I can see this in the larger farms, but small scale.
But you've got Zinxa. You've got Zinxa right here, right? Zinxa is just a stone throw away from where we are right now, right?
Okay.
So Zinxa has got multiple. They've got maybe about 10 drones now, 10 to 15 drones, state-of-the-art drones. And there's ZimSat 1 and ZimSat 2, which have already been deployed, right?
Okay.
We've got 2 satellites that have already been
So
deployed.
it's accessible to...
Yeah, so then it's a
rural
question
farmers.
now, making it now accessible through some platform that they then deploy to all the rural areas, right? Right, yeah. So with that, you're
And
then
pest
able...
control?
Yeah, absolutely. So outbreak of pests, you're able then to deploy the drones to be able to spray those fields. So you know the specific area where there's an outbreak, you spray and you move from area to area based on the information that you have from the satellite technology.
Okay. Is there anywhere in the world that is a user case where, let's take our tobacco yields or maize yields, and you say, you know what, before AI, your tobacco yield was X, but with AI, we've improved the yields 3-4-fold. Do we have a use case where that has happened?
There's lots of use cases currently when there's war in Ukraine. Ukraine, it actually developed very advanced technology in terms of yield using satellite technology. In fact, in the Ukraine, it almost become number one in terms of satellite technology, yield prediction, and getting the best. So the country with the best yields in terms of wheat and corn was actually Ukraine. It became superior to Russia because of the technology. They're very advanced satellite imagery technology and scientists who can predict yield, and even to the point of how much new micronutrients are required at this stage and that stage, all based through data. So for every activity that's happening on the field, they collect data every minute, and then based on that data, they're able to know how much fertilizer to add, to adjust, so that the crop performs far much better.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ukraine was actually a leader in that particular area, obviously, and that technology in Russia and the other parts of the world where they were really doing well in terms of especially corn and wheat. This is why they had almost like 36 to 40% of the world, in terms of producing the largest portion of the wheat and corn, or 40% came from Russia and Ukraine.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So this is why the war then disrupted that whole supply chain, because they could do it so precisely and supply all of the other parts of the world just from that region alone.
And I suppose it's a good example of how industry had actually innovated, because the large farmers in multinationals, farmers in Ukraine were actually from South America. A lot of the companies that settled in Ukraine, and the Ukraine system was, the farmer leases off the land from the landlords.
Yeah.
And the landlords are these small scale guy who actually owns the land. So you could have 10,000 leases, right? So there's just one guy who's farming, and then you pay a tribute to the landowner. and then so they could actually import all these technologies. And I think that's just something that perhaps in Zimbabwe we could do. We could, if industry was more
absolutely.
progressive.
So if you look at what is the low hanging fruit for Zim to implement when it comes to AI? So you look at in terms of apart from tobacco, in terms of our GDP, right? What is the largest contribution?
Wholesale, retail, and wholesale.
Retail and wholesale, but over wholesale and retail, all of the things that they're selling are coming from agriculture, right? The agriculture is a input into some manufacturing process, right? Right, whether it's for chicken feed, soap, whatever. There's something that has to come from some agricultural process, right? So therefore, if we enhance agriculture using AI, because it's one of our large components in terms of our GDP and mining. So and we've been very good at farming breadbasket for the number of
once
years.
upon a time.
Not exactly. Not exactly, but give us your utopian.
So
what we could do in agriculture.
So imagine if in terms of yield, right? In terms of yield, if we could make every farmer, right? Because the average yield for wheat is about 4 tons per hectare. But with the same variety, you can get up to 11 to 12 tons per hectare with good agricultural practices, right? So imagine same land, but the techniques have changed. You change the techniques, you give them the tools using AI to become more productive, so that with the same land, you are now at, let's just say 8 tons per hectare. That will more than double the yield on the same land, right? So in terms of now food security, you've completely changed the game. You don't need to import and so on, right? So food security is number one issue. So if you change that, you've changed the dynamics of the whole farming industry, and that is key for Zimbabwe.
Right? So you brought out a very interesting thing about the different stages of economic development and how AI can impact. And I think this is a debate I want to have. Does it mean that we can leapfrog? Because economic theory was, companies or countries move from, feudalistic systems right through to capitalism, and then you have the Industrial Revolution, and you move from primary production right through to services and tertiary. And the economic theory was you cannot leapfrog. You can't miss the manufacturing stage. You can't just say you're moving from this end to the and become treasury or become banking or services. And the whole idea was, as you move up the value chain, it's labor absorption. So what makes countries richer is not exactly where you are on the value chain, but it's the money that's in people's pockets. So you're in farming, but the amount of money that's actually left in people's pockets is very little because it's subsistence. But when you move them to manufacturing, suddenly from earning, let's say $50 a month, they're now earning $150, $200 a month. So there's effective demand, consumer demand. So it's less about the actual production or manufacturing, but it's how much people in that society are now earning. And then when you move to the last stage, let's say America, you're now earning 62,000. So you have a middle class, a very significant middle class, and that becomes the effective demand. And there are these arguments, and I think Kenya was the one particular case study that was used, that you can leapfrog from agriculture to these AI or fourth industrial revolution. My argument against that is that's truly we could have a utopian AI country, and we're using that. But unfortunately, if the majority of our people are on subsistence salaries, then there's no effective demand.
Yeah, you're right. It's a double-edged sword, right? because the more automation you have, the less jobs that are available. Yet you're producing more, and people can consume more, but the actual money that is circulating amongst people becomes less because you've automated every possible process. So the challenge with AI as well is the disruption in terms of jobs, right? You disrupt all these jobs with all this automation that you put in. Then what happens to those people who've been disrupted without jobs? So it means you have to then create safety nets for those who don't have jobs, so that they continue to have some kind of income. So there's this concept of universal income, to say from every disruption that is created, there should be some kind of tax that goes to compensate.
I don't believe in that, but let's hear Rufaro, because I don't believe in that, but let's hear Rufaro, what do you think?
So I tend to disagree with Panashe's take on skipping stages. And I think Zimbabwe is a good case study of this when you look at telecoms. So for the longest time, if you look at the developed world, the way their telecom industry developed, they started with very high, with landlines, and then those got to very high penetration, and then you had eventually mobile telephony come through, whereas we leapfrogged that stage. We never had more than 30% penetration in fixed lines. So people in the rural areas just did not have access to telephony until the advent of the mobile phone. And a lot of those people did not have access to banking until the advent of mobile money. So, and in many ways, countries like Zimbabwe and Kenya, in terms of mobile money, are more advanced than the developed world, where they had very good legacy banking infrastructure, which everybody, where they had, near universal adoption. So people don't actually see the need to have a digital wallet. Whereas in Zimbabwe, there are people who never had an opportunity to have a normal bank account. And, their first interface with formal banking was through, digital wallets. So, so what I'm curious about is, why haven't we seen, because it seems to me from what you've described, that the cost benefit, analysis is very clear, for agriculture, for example, to use all this technology to improve yields. And even in the private sector, you'd think that everybody's motivated by the profit incentive. And to the extent that they can analyze data better or market their product better, they would really be aggressive in the adoption of AI tools. But we don't really, I mean, I've been an analyst in this market for 20, 25 years. I haven't seen any senior executives talk about AI.
So there's also the other side. When analytics, what other analytics can do, it can clearly tell what the issues are in terms of the bottom line, the key performance indicators, how to improve, and where you can leverage your company to be able to as you're saying, to leapfrog some of the stages. But the challenge as well, it's also that you can clearly tell who is the bottleneck within the source system, right? Right. So a lot of these captains of industries, they don't want to be exposed by data, because data will expose you that you're not performing, right? Yeah. So they don't want to be exposed. So therefore, if you don't want to be exposed, you don't bring the technology to expose me. So, yeah.
But then that makes a very good case for startups and disruption in the industry.
So there has to be a lot of disruption. We need every industry to be disrupted. Absolutely, we need every industry to be. Mobile money was a wake-up call for all of these banks. Extremely comfortable, right? You open at 9 and you close at 2:30.
And Wednesday, when we started working, banks were open up until midday on Wednesday. They were not open on Saturday at all.
Yeah. So very, 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 very relaxed, right? And most of them, the income is based on the account maintenance fees. Right? Every month they knock off a transaction fee, whether you've transacted during the week or I don't care, as long as at the end of the month they just knock off that monthly charge. And those fees were enough to keep them afloat and they're relaxed. So the disruption is critical for people to be able to think and innovate. Disruption is key. So we have to be disrupted even more.
So do you see this? Do you think it's imminent? Do you think that there's a tsunami of change driven by cheap AI tools, where people who build businesses that are meritocracies simply outperform the legacy businesses?
Absolutely. So there's this tool, right? Or there's this part of AI called an AI agent. So an AI agent is an AI, an autonomous AI that can create other AIs, right? You give it a task and it decides how it wants to execute a job, how many other AIs it needs, and it can do a whole entire job on its own by deciding how many other AIs it needs to collaborate with, and what tools it needs to be able to execute those different jobs and so on. So 2025 is the year of AI agents. And for the first time, you're going to have billion-dollar corporations being run by maybe 5 people. And they will have maybe 10,000 agents that are running their AI agents that are running their corporation. So that disruption is definitely coming.
What's coming out is borders won't mean a thing.
Yeah.
That maybe if in Zimbabwe we remain archaic in many of our ways, the disruption might actually come from across the border. It might come from Botswana. That somebody can actually come up with a technology that actually disrupts even mobile money or whatever it is that's actually happening in Zimbabwe. Do you see that? And how far off are we from that utopia?
Challenge with things like money, the issue of regulation. So things that are tightly regulated tend to progress slowly, right? So even EcoCash, its launch to become viral, it took some time because of the regulatory issues, right? You were talking about bank accounts and people not having bank accounts, but it's actually a regulation issue, right? Because if you look at the traditional banking system, KYC, know your customer, they need to know your address. You need to prove income for you to be able to open a bank account. But I'm a guy who sells airtime on the street. I make $100 a day. Does that mean that money is not bankable? Right?
Yeah, but to push back a little bit and to take Tinashe's point a little bit further, if you think about the world that we live in today, so you have, so everybody in this jurisdiction, if you own a TV or if you own a radio, you have to pay the TV licenses.
Yeah.
But most people don't watch ZTV or listen to local radio. Yeah. They listen to Netflix. And even if Netflix was banned, right, you can access it through Starlink, which doesn't go through any terrestrial internet infrastructure, and people would still watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think maybe 10, 20 years ago, you could say, this is from South Africa, it's banned in Zimbabwe. Yeah. This is from the US, it's banned in Zimbabwe. This is from such and such a place, we don't want it here. But increasingly with satellite internet and these devices and VPNs, a government can say we don't want this product in our jurisdiction, but they will be powerless.
Absolutely,
powerless to stop it from actually being used and accessed by its citizens.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So imagine if an online bank in Botswana starts where you can open a bank account using your passport, just uploading documents, and immediately you have a bank account, and with that bank account you're able to do transactions across borders, and within that, they can even, based on simple credit rating, they can even give you some money. That small things like that can actually go quite viral, because if you look at the current banking system, even the microfinance institution, in terms of their ability to quickly provide finance in terms of time and approval process, is actually quite long. Might tell me 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a long time. I need money right now. So a system where a loan request can quickly be approved, and also have a secure mechanism to be paid back. Things like that can go quite viral, and that doesn't really exist at the moment. Yeah.
Well, let's go even further, and let's take this argument even further, where your ID won't matter. What will matter is perhaps your Facebook profile, right? Especially if it's verified.
Yeah.
Because then it actually contains a lot more data than your ID, because your ID, well, I don't really care. And then if I use your Facebook profile, especially with deregulation that's going to happen in America, it means that we're going to, Facebook or X or whatever, or, as a WhatsApp, those are going to be wallets at some point. And it doesn't not necessarily mean that I have to be in Zimbabwe or in South Africa. As long as I have a Facebook profile and I have a wallet, then I can transfer money, I can do all sorts of things, and it could be across borders, and that's a reality that's very possible, right? And even the credit rating,
absolutely,
it's now determined by my social interaction and my family, and they can get in touch with me, and AI will be able to do that.
So in terms of, for example, if we wanted to do a background check on you, obviously we're going to use Facebook. We look at who your associates are, right? And whether your associates have been given money and paid back. So if you're a person who's got a lot of associates who don't pay back money,
by implication,
birds of a feather.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that then becomes key. Like, who's within your network? So AI is able to do all of that, right? To check your network, then based on that assessment and calculating risk, and say, this guy's got too many friends who are suspicious in terms of paying back loans, so therefore he could be in the same boat. And then it becomes flagged as a high risk to be able to give you money. So all that data then becomes important, because what people don't realize, when you apply for these jobs or overseas, they actually do all of those checks to actually see, who's within your network, where have you worked before, what do people say about you,
and your social media footprint. I think
footprint
becomes even more pertinent. I could go even a bit further, where peer-to-peer lending will become even more prominent, because it could be a savings product. Because I think that's a limitation that we have in Zimbabwe, is that savings products don't work anymore. But I think that if you now have this big, and I'm just speculating, if you have Meta or Facebook with a wallet, then lots of people would rather keep their money on a Facebook wallet than keep cash. And then the interaction, it means that Facebook will be able to tell who's got money, and we can actually do a peer-to-peer lending, where there's no bank at all, but it's like, I know Rufaro, and and somebody can actually guarantee Rufaro within his network that I know says, no, if Rufaro doesn't pay, I will be able to do so. So then we're able to interact, and then the cost of financing reduces substantially, because you're able to mobilize the money on a Facebook wallet right now.
But that's how Islamic banking works, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Islamic banking, that's how. That's how.
So it brings out an even more important question, which is how AI is going to change the power dynamics of countries.
Yeah. So
would you like to take a?
Yeah. So look at it this way. The more powerful. So let's look at a real example. The recent Hamas and Israel fiasco, right? Hamas fires a rocket, or whether it's coming from the Houthis or wherever it is. So that Iron Dome, how do you think it's driven? is it a human being trying to intercept the missile? Is that possible? Because when a missile is fired, you need something that can calculate the trajectory of the missile and fire another missile to intercept it in real time.
Yep.
So that's milliseconds. So obviously, that can only be AI driven. You can actually Google it. That can only be AI driven. Yeah. So in terms of superiority of military power, those that have advanced
AI are going to win.
Of course, war will be driven by AI. Instead of deploying your soldiers, you first deploy your robots. It's much cheaper.
But does it mean that we'll have more wars? Because part of the deterrent of wars is actual human beings die. Whereas if it's drones and robots and AI that are being killed or being intercepted, then the level of aggression just increases.
But it depends on the number of robots you have, right? If you have 1,000, I have 100,000.
Okay.
And more powerful, right?
So might becomes even more powerful.
Yeah, of course. It becomes... so even the ability to create an intelligent missile where you try and intercept it, it diverts, it routes, right? And knows that all these other missiles that are being fired, it can shoot out other smaller missiles that are diversions. Yet the intended missile for the target has got the intelligence to be able to remain focused on its target. And all that intelligence that is required to do that can only be driven by AI. So obviously, AI is already being used in war. They just don't say it, but AI is being used in war. So then the challenge is, what's the point of AI ethics then if AI is already being used in war?
But isn't it just it's just I find it quite interesting, the whole conversation about ethics in AI, because especially when it comes to things like war, how do you have any ethics in war? Because ultimately the winner sets the rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? If if Tinashe is ethical and you're not, but but you're more effective, then you're going to win, right? And it's immaterial that he was more ethical, right?
I feel better.
There's no ethics in war. Absolutely, no ethics in war, because war is about winning, right? You have to win at all costs, and you have to win convincingly, right? So that your enemy will never try another attempt to come back. So you have to win convincingly, right? So how can it be ethical?
So small nations and their guerrilla warfare, that's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very difficult, because now you can attach machines of war on a robot, and you can give it an assignment to be able to do war for you. So a lot of wars are going to be privatized, because if you're a small country, you don't have the capability. You go to a big corporate
mercenary
armies.
Well, this is something that you know a lot about. Let's talk about Osama bin Laden, and you were involved in his capture in some way.
No, I wasn't. I don't know where that came from. So I see this comment, and I'm like, okay. No.
Oh, you're not at liberty to tell us?
No, not at all. So I don't know where that came from, because I wasn't involved. So I was still in the banking sector then.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. When this whole thing happened, so I wasn't involved in that at all. Yeah. So whoever.
I don't believe you.
You don't believe me? No.
It's an urban legend.
Yeah. Urban legend. Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
where that came from. So I actually had some of my friends. They saw it and they were just on the floor.
He was a believer.
So the connection between everything that you're doing to this, trying to link the connection,
All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Let's segue into the future. Let's talk about kids that are in school today. And with the advent of AI, what do you think is going to happen in terms of career planning? What should kids look out for? Does this spell the death of STEM or everything, even humanities, everything? The world is going to be very, very different. It's going to be run by machines, and how do we plan for our future?
Yeah. So if you look at the Nobel Prize winners, the trend, how it just shifted, right?
Yeah, I think 2 of them were AI. 3 of them were AI specialists or experts.
4.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So look at the shift. This year is 4. They're using AI, right? Tools, and next year is going to be much more. So AI becomes an accelerator in discovery, whether it's in drug discovery, whether it's in genetics and so on. So what is key is for kids to be able to learn how to use AI as a tool within STEM, right? To work with AI for faster learning and discovery.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if we take it to the utopian world, which may not be tomorrow, but eventually the machines will be able to do it themselves, right?
Yeah, eventually, but it's a gradual process.
Okay.
Yeah, of which you still need human beings to be able to create the
To
AI.
be in the loop.
Right.
And
So
for
we're
how
still
long,
safe.
because with AI, what we've seen is, so initially, before, I think Kasparov lost to Deep Blue in 1998, and
Yeah, that was a long milestone. Yeah.
in the world of AI. And then for many years after that, you had teams of humans working with chess programs to play each other. And then it just got to a point where having any human involvement would just slow things down and degrade performance.
Yeah.
And, it's just, machines are just much, much better than human beings. And if you want to get the best outcomes, you just have a program with no human intervention. And so we're going to see this happen in profession after profession, I guess. And my question to you is when, I suppose that's when we have super intelligence. How many years or decades are we from that point where you have machines that outperform humans in every profession?
Yeah. So in terms of driving, self-driving cars already outperform humans, right? So it's not just a game of Go or chess. Or self-driving cars are more efficient. Of course, there are minor incidences, because if you look at the number of people that die from accidents globally every year, it's around maybe 30,000, right?
In America alone, it's like 1 million.
No, it's 1 million globally.
Yeah,
it's about 30,000 in the US.
Yeah. So imagine, through reckless driving, right? Through reckless driving. Now imagine all of those were self-driving car, and
it will be substantially lower.
Yeah, that it will be substantial. No, let's just imagine that maybe due to some other faults, you reduce that to just 10,000. It's a significant lives which are saved.
It's multiples. Yeah.
Yeah, those are significant lives which are saved, right? And self-driving cars are already doing that, right? And right now, the Uber services in the States are completely autonomous, right? Waymo, the Google company, self-driving car company, their taxi rides completely autonomous, no accidents, multiple rides everywhere, and no accidents at all. And Elon Musk is doing the same with these robot taxis that is introducing as well. So imagine the number of lives that are saved. The reason why, why do you really need a car? Is it for the transport? Is it for status symbol? Why do you really need a car? Is it for going from point A to point B? It won't really matter anymore, right? Because you now have the safety, right? Do you really want your kids to drive when they grow up?
Maybe not.
Yeah, and then knowing
So going back to the kids, tell us what's the future? What do you think?
So the future.
Look for?
So it's important for kids to learn STEM, absolutely, but they learn STEM using AI.
All right. Okay. So there's still going to be a future for STEM.
AI is like your co-pilot, your assistant that you are learning with, So what you don't understand, the AI will help you to understand it better, right? So that you become more efficient at learning. And the good thing about AI is what you don't understand, it can understand your weaknesses and vary the content to create content that allows you to learn better, right?
Okay.
Because for a teacher,
So basically, you're saying the teachers are going to become obsolete at some point.
the teacher will
The human teacher, that is.
you need less teachers because the AI can curate content according to your learning style. For a teacher to be able to do that when you've got a class of 30, 40 kids, it's
It's a big ask.
it's a big task, right? So now imagine the AI can curate content for every kid according to their learning style and assess, right, that content according to the kid's capability, and then gradually improve the rate of difficulty of that content to the standard that is required based on your ability to learn.
So we're not going to be redundant. So as an economist or as a banker or as a lawyer, as a doctor?
Not entirely. What will happen is the amount of people that are required will become less
Over time.
Over time with the automation taking place. Right? It will become less and less and less with time. Right? Yeah. So it's going to be quite
So
challenging.
on that very positive note, I think,
yeah. So maybe if I can continue. So it's the white collar jobs which are really at risk if you think about it, where intelligence is required for every task to make a decision and so on, that you can automate with the AI. So it's the blue collar jobs, right, where a plumber has to go look for a pipe and where's the leak, and then you try and do that's the cost of trying to create a robot in AI, and that is it's not going to bring the value than replacing a white collar job that is on a 6-figure salary, and the value saving for a corporate is much more appealing, right? So it's the white collar jobs that are going to be
so three of us basically
that are going to be because imagine the ability of it to write code. So now even in my coding, I don't write code from scratch. I always use an AI to assist me in all my coding and everything else, right? Yeah, because it's more efficient at generating code more than I will ever be at writing the code. So why should I waste my time? Because what's key is the output and not the effort that has gone in, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So let's play a little game. Suppose we had AI as a fourth participant of this conversation. What would it look like? So far, the conversation that we've had, let's say, Pane AI.
Yeah, it will be a device that can understand speech and is able to interpret that speech.
Would our conversation be better? Would we get out of this feeling enlightened, or it would be more of a dictionary? You know, it's when we're disputing a fact, we're like, yeah, Tuesday.
And then it retrieves.
It says, no, you're wrong.
So
Yeah.
AI has got now with these current large language models, they've got the ability to reason, right? So not only to reason, so if you've got a question now, being able to correlate amongst all the information it has to give you the precise answer. So it's not just looking up in a dictionary. It's the ability to give you the precise answer that you require. The effort that you would have needed and the amount of time. Now imagine you can get it in a fraction of a second.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think that was quite riveting. I enjoyed this. You've changed my mind on a number of things, but more importantly, I feel enlightened. I honestly feel enlightened. And I think let's hear the viewers. Let's hear what you guys think. If you've got any questions, I think soon enough we're gonna have another conversation. We need to
absolutely.
follow up.
Absolutely. Yeah. So come and see some of the work we're doing, so that you can actually then capture and have a real feel of what that looks like. We've got that biolab going to Botswana soon. You can come and see what that looks like, which is being used for diabetic retinopathy. And
this is in Botswana.
It's here.
Oh, it's here.
We're building it here, and it's actually going to Botswana.
Okay, so we'll come.
You come and see the infrastructure that we're putting inside that. It's when it was still being built. So we're actually creating.
We'll take you up on that.
Yeah, creating technology that we're exporting. So so it's interesting. The other things that we're doing. Yeah.
It's not often that my mind is changed, but certainly you've changed my mind on a number of things. But like I said, I feel extremely enlightened. I feel like we had AI sitting across, and, with so many questions. And I still think that, but I also think that the human interaction is such that I think a machine would probably give me the precise answer, but sometimes that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for community. I'm looking for the social interaction and getting to know you even better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feel like enriched in many ways than just the precise answers, but actually sharing a drink, and that's why it's called Friday Drinks. Because actually, I can't share a drink with a machine.
Yeah, you can't share a drink with a machine. But now you've seen some of the female companions that have been created. You've seen them, right? They're almost indistinguishable from a real woman, right? You can interact with her. Obviously, she can't drink a beer, but it's going to get interesting, right? Because
don't you think that there's something about serendipity with a real human being, that the chances of success and failure, it's almost 50-50, whereas with AI, maybe I could actually tell it what I want the answer to be. Okay, it has to be eventually a yes, but please say no. But on the
chasing game,
the chase game and I think that's
the thrill is in the chase.
The thrill is in the exactly. I think that's where the thrill is.
Okay, that's an interesting rabbit hole that I think we can
get
dive
in trouble
after the cameras stop recording.
Okay, cameras, please stop recording. And this was wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Let's continue this conversation. Like I said, I found it extremely riveting. But have yourself a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend.
Cheers.
Thank you.